At 2 a.m., just as my wife walked in, an unknown number texted me a photo. There she was, wild and provocative, swinging a bottle and dancing like some cheap KTV hostess with a man plastered right against her. I felt nothing but a cold, quiet calm. Sitting with my legs crossed, I looked at her and said, "I just got a text with photos of you at a bar. Want to explain?" She took a deep breath, acting completely unbothered. "I don't know what you're talking about. Probably some colleague playing a prank. Why should I explain? We just went out." She wasn't lying. She was actually being quite honest, completely devoid of shame. "You have time for bars," I said, "but no time to take our daughter to the park or attend her parent-teacher meetings. Do you know how disappointed Qian was? Are you even fit to be a mother?" She suddenly looked guilty. "I'm sorry, honey. I forgot," she whimpered, looking up like a stray kitten trying to please me. Her rain-soaked dress clung tightly to her skin. She had tried hiding it with her purse earlier, but now it was fully exposed. It was almost more provocative than being completely naked. Even knowing she was the original husband's wife, I felt a sudden surge of heat. What a manipulative siren. Her apology sounded incredibly sincere, but too bad for her. "I am not him." In a sweet, gentle voice she hadn't used in ages, she murmured, "I'm sorry, honey, it won't happen again. You know I hate bars anyway." I cut right through her act. "Did you sleep with Liu Xingchen tonight?" My voice was flat and calm, as if I were reading a weather report. Liu Xingchen was a name Xiao Hongli brought up constantly, an artist from the Royal College of Art, her boss and her true love. Before taking over this body, I was a professional fixer, a cleaner. Finding out secrets was second nature to me. Unused to my icy demeanor, Hongli squirmed in discomfort. She paused, clearly rehearsing her lie before speaking. "I did go with Supervisor Liu, yes. But it was a department party. We didn't do anything, I swear." I locked eyes with her beautiful face, analyzing her micro-expressions. There it was a flicker of guilt. She was hiding something. "You know I despise him," I said. "And you never go to bars. Your previous boss invited you countless times, and you always refused. You used to say bars were trashy. Why the sudden change tonight?" "So did you sleep with him?" I asked again. Her face flushed a deep crimson as she snapped back defensively. "Do you think I'm cheating on you? I would never." "So did you sleep with him or not?" "For the last time, no." She shrieked, her voice brimming with confidence. Her micro-expressions confirmed she was actually telling the truth about that part. Interesting. I frowned slightly, then softened my voice. "Fine, I believe you. I made you some milk and bread. Go get some rest." She definitely didn't expect me to drop it so easily. Stunned by how easily she got off the hook, she stood frozen before quietly heading to the kitchen. What she didn't know was that the warm milk was spiked with a heavy dose of sleeping pills, enough to knock her out for 24 hours. I needed that time to put my plan into motion. She came out, hesitated to speak, checked her phone, and kept quiet. Swallowing her words, she retreated to the bedroom. Half an hour later, I went in. She was completely dead to the world. Even a hard shove didn't wake her. I took her hand, pressed her finger to the home button, and unlocked her phone. Her lock screen was a photo of her and Liu Xingchen, her face radiating a tender warmth. It was a smile I hadn't seen in years. The way they leaned into each other went far beyond professional boundaries. Her photo gallery was packed with design drafts, but every single picture of me and our daughter had been wiped clean. I opened her chat app and found a pinned contact named Art Star, pinned right at the top. "Oh, Hongli, and you still claim you aren't cheating?" My wife came from the prestigious Xiao family of Jiangnan, famous for their strict moral code. A woman like her doesn't stray for money. If it isn't for money, it has to be for love. I muttered, feeling a wave of pity for the poor soul whose body I now inhabited. Hongli was the one who had initiated contact with Liu Xingchen. At first, she only asked him about art, but it quickly spiraled into shared hobbies and deeply intimate personal secrets. She routinely complained to him about her boring life, her useless husband, and how much of a headache our daughter was. Liu's calculated sympathy gave her the perfect escape. I noticed most of their chat history was intact, though some parts had been carefully deleted. I immediately began copying everything. After backing up her phone to my laptop, I cranked the air conditioner down to 18 degrees and cast a freezing look at my sleeping wife. At 7 a.m., my daughter Qian woke up. As I helped her get ready, a memory sparked in my mind. Qian, I asked, when you're with mommy, does an uncle ever visit?" I asked because the original husband was too oblivious to notice when his daughter mentioned an uncle who gave her candy. My daughter paused, spitting out her toothpaste. "Yes, an uncle comes over sometimes." I let out a cold, silent laugh and led her into the study. Pulling up a photo of Liu Xingchen online, I pointed. "Is this him?" "Yes. He bought mommy a really pretty dress, too." I smiled grimly. "Chen Yipeng, my friend, I am going to make them pay for what they did to you." I recorded her entire confession and saved it securely. Next, I hired someone to dig up her hotel check-in records and pull any security footage. After dropping Qian off at school, I headed straight to a pharmacy. Using ordinary, over-the-counter drugs, I quietly formulated a custom poison. As a professional cleaner, toxins were my specialty. Then I paid a visit to her office. "I'm here to request a few days off from my wife," I said, offering a tight mock smile to the handsome young man in his early 20s. This was Liu Xingchen. He clearly recognized me, his eyes instantly shifting in panic. Sure, no problem at all," he stammered. "Appreciate it," I said, clapping him hard on the shoulder. It looked like a friendly gesture, but the microfine needle concealed between my fingers pierced right through his shirt into his skin. The tip was coated in my custom compound. It wasn't lethal, but it would trigger agonizing symptoms. True revenge isn't about quick death, it's about making them suffer slowly. I will make this cheating couple beg for the sweet release of death to satisfy the original husband's lingering rage. Using her sickness as an excuse, I took 3 days off work myself. When I returned home at noon, Hong Li was still out cold, shivering in the freezing room I'd prepared. The sleeping pills were still active. I turned off the AC and carefully administered a liquid dose that numbs the nervous system, perfectly mimicking a severe flu. Combined with the freezing air, she wouldn't be leaving this bed for a week. I needed this time to gather bulletproof evidence for a clean divorce. To the original husband's parents, Hong Li was a flawless daughter-in-law. Highly educated and drop-dead gorgeous, they saw her as a princess marrying down. Her dedication to the household had been undeniable. Despite her artistic background, she lived simply dressed modestly and wore minimal makeup. But a cheating woman degrades rapidly. Apparently, true love completely rots a person's intelligence. As the hours ticked by, I sat in the study compiling my files, uploading every damning photo and video to a secure cloud drive. Around 5:30, I heard her groaning from the bedroom. Hong Li was finally waking up. Instantly, I slipped into my mask, channeling Chen Yiping's submissive personality. I rushed in looking completely panicked. "Oh my God, honey, are you okay? You look so sick. Let me get you some medicine." The moment I turned my back and stepped outside, my face went dead cold. Earlier today, I bought covert cameras and paid a hacker to install spyware on her phone. Now her every move was mirrored on my screen. True to form, the very first thing she did upon waking up was text her lover. "Are you there, darling?" she wrote. "I'm sick and need to take time off. Can you handle tomorrow's report?" He replied instantly, "I'm here, babe. Your husband already got you excused. Rest up. I've got this. Love you." She replied, "Stop, you're bad. Delete this now." Their entire exchange streamed directly to my phone. Even though she deleted the messages on her end, they were already backed up on my device. The text clearly proved their affair. She might have played hard to get by, telling him to stop, but any idiot could see they were deeply involved in a sickening, flirtatious relationship. Holding a cup of warm water and the flu pills, I walked back in. Hearing my footsteps, she instinctively shoved her phone under her pillow, a classic sign of guilt. In the past 4 months, she had done this dozens of times, and her foolish husband had never suspected a thing. "Thank you, honey," she said, looking touched. But as I leaned in to help her drink, her body instinctively flinched away before she forced herself to relax. Her physical aversion to me was obvious, and she knew she had messed up by showing it. Never trust an unfaithful woman. For their twisted idea of love, they will discard their families, treating even their own children as obstacles. Once she drank the drugged water, she drifted back to sleep. My custom herbal blend would keep her in a deeply exhausted flu-like state for days. I initially planned to ask her sister, Xiao Jingyan, to watch over her. Jingyan had no kids, a wealthy husband running an insurance firm, and spent her days in idle luxury. Since Hong Li would be bedridden for a week, and I had work to do, I couldn't stay. But as I pulled out my phone, it buzzed with an incoming call from my mother-in-law, Wu Gei. I took a breath, smoothing out my voice. "Hello, Mom. What's up, Yiping? I'm at your front door. Since Hong Li is sick, I'm here to help. Go on to work." A wicked idea sparked in my mind. "Actually, Mom, my phone fell in water yesterday and wiped my entire gallery. Qianqian's teacher needs a family portrait for her graduation yearbook. Could you ask Hong Li to find one on her phone and send it over?" I knew damn well her phone didn't have a single family photo. She had purged every trace of us. I had two motives: first, to test my mother-in-law's stance on her daughter's behavior, and second, to see if Hong Li possessed even a shred of motherly guilt. "Oh, honestly," Wu Gei sighed. "Can't you two just talk directly? Did you have a fight? Tell me, I'll set her straight." I let out a heavy, weary sigh. "She's just so busy, Mom. Qianqian has been begging to go to the park, but Hong Li is never free. I understand she's focused on her career, so I just try to keep the house running. Honestly, we haven't been intimate in over 3 months. I'm worried it's going to ruin our marriage." Wu Gei gasped, sounding furious. 3 months? I'll give her a piece of my mind. Rest assured I raised her right. She'd never do anything shameful. It's my fault, Mom. I'm just not successful enough. Anyway, I'm nearly at the clinic to set up a virtual doctor visit for her. Keep your phone handy. Keeping my voice meek and subservient, she didn't suspect a thing. I hung up and smiled. Don't disappoint me, mother-in-law. Wooji arrived at the apartment clutching a fresh chicken for soup. Remembering my request, she immediately went to Hongli's bedroom to ask for the photo. By sheer luck, Hongli had just finished messaging Liu Xingchen and was slipping back into a heavily drugged, semi-conscious stupor. She felt her mother enter the room but could barely lift an arm, let alone speak. My goodness, your fever is spiking again. Wu-Ge clucked, tucking her in. Yiping is setting up a digital doctor appointment for you right now. You're so lucky to have such a caring husband. I'm so tired, Mom. Let me sleep, Hongli muttered. Hearing her mother praise me made a rare pang of guilt flare in her chest. She rolled over, hiding her face from her mother's eyes. Unaware of the betrayal, my mother-in-law stroked her hair gently. Rest up, sweetie. Oh, the school needs a family photo and Yiping's phone is broken. Let me look through yours. Groggy and battling a pounding headache, Hongli blindly unlocked her phone and handed it over. Seeing her struggle, her mother gently took the device from her hand. I'll find a nice one of you three. Our little girl is so beautiful after all. Listening through my hidden audio feed, a dark smile crept across my face. If I weren't sitting in the back of a taxi, I would have burst out laughing. Look closely, dear mother-in-law. What on earth was it? My wife had just called Liu Xingchen, leaving her phone unlocked. The moment my mother-in-law saw the screensaver, her face turned pale. She stood up trembling, but found nothing in the photo album. Through my synced phone, I saw my mother-in-law staring intensely at the cozy photo of Liu Xingchen and my wife. Her face twisted in rage as she ripped the blanket off and yanked my wife's pajamas, forcing her awake. My wife was forced awake. Half opening her eyes, she groaned, Mom, what are you doing? I have work tomorrow, my mother-in-law roared. Work? What kind of work? With what man? You disgraceful embarrassment, get up right now. My wife finally snapped out of her daze. Seeing the phone in her mother's hand, her heart skipped a beat. Snatched it away, she snapped, Who said you could touch my phone? Trembling with rage, my mother-in-law growled, Secrets, huh? How long has this been going on? My wife muttered in confusion. How long? What her sickness made her slow. You and the man on your screensaver. How long you know I despise liars. And I despise cheaters. I thought your father and I raised you better. I never expected this sick surprise. My mother-in-law choked on her rage. My wife finally looked at her screen and her blood ran cold. She stammered, Mom, it is not what you think. We are just colleagues. He is a famous designer. My idol. Just like you fangirling over celebrities. An idol. My mother-in-law glared, gritting her teeth. Do you think I am stupid? I am your mother. Do you think I cannot tell? Yiping said you two haven't been intimate in 3 months? I thought you were busy, but your heart was already gone. Yiping told you, that bastard. Why would he say that? I was just busy. I never cheated. Nobody touched me. Mom, believe me. My wife sobbed defensively. Mentioning me only fueled my mother-in-law's rage. With a sharp crack, she slapped my wife right across the face. She held back, but the slap was loud. Have you lost your conscience? Yiping sacrificed so much for us. When your father was hospitalized, Yiping stayed there for 3 days helping out. You only visited once your own father. Now that you are promoted, you flirt with other men. Do you think I am blind? Look where his hands are. Have you no shame? You are a married woman and a mother. What will your daughter think of you? My mother-in-law's furious lecture hit my wife like a sledgehammer, leaving her completely dazed and feeling wronged. Like many who self-deceive, she truly believed that avoiding physical intimacy meant she hadn't betrayed me. Calling them soulmates was absolute delusion. When my mother-in-law spoke, everyone listened. My wife weakly muttered, Mom, I did not cheat, her eyes darting away guiltily. My mother-in-law took a deep breath. Who is he? Why do you want to know? Why can't I? He has bewitched my daughter so much that she is ready to throw away her husband and child. Of course I can ask. Furious, she smacked my wife's back hard. Liu Xingchen, my supervisor, my wife whispered, scrolling through her phone guiltily. Looking at the screensaver, she felt conflicted. She had indeed changed lately, completely obsessed with discussing art with him, to the point where her family and mother noticed. What pained her most was neglecting our daughter. She used to love being around her mom, but they had slowly drifted apart. Guilt washed over my wife, and she wept silently in deep shame. My mother-in-law sighed. I trust you will do the right thing. Before Yiping finds out, end this. Delete that photo and quit your job. We do not need your salary. I will fund your own business if you want. Her tone was firm. Wiping her tears, my wife insisted, I cannot quit, Mom. I love design. I promise to keep things strictly professional with Liu Xingchen from now on. I know I have neglected our home lately, and Yiping probably resents me. I will apologize to him. I was just too focused on work, but I will fix this. She sounded incredibly sincere, and her mother believed her. But watching through my surveillance feed, I scoffed. My mother-in-law pleaded, do not meet him privately again. Once you cross that line, you can never go back. I understand, Mom, my wife replied, deleting the screensaver photos right there. But on my surveillance feed, I shook my head. My wife hesitated while deleting the files. She was not truly letting go. Her mother could clear her phone, but not her heart. Once a woman's heart strays, she is gone. Later that evening, she sat thinking. The past few months felt like a dream. Her mother's warning had deeply shaken her. I am such a fool, she whispered, biting her lip. Did she actually love him? Did she want to spend forever with him? Was she willing to leave me and our lovely daughter? If asked separately, she might hesitate. But together her choice was instant. I will never leave my family. I was just restless, and my passion for art blinded me. It was just idol worship, nothing more. I do not love him. As she tried to convince herself, she realized she had neglected our family for 3 whole months, especially our daughter. Where was she all that time? She was designing with Liu Xingchen, dining and shopping with him, but had no time to take our daughter to the park. Deep guilt washed over her, and her eyes welled up with tears. She felt entirely unworthy of being a mother. Once she started reflecting, memories flooded back. Although I did not understand her art, I had always cared for her deeply. No matter how late she came home, a hot meal was waiting. When she was too exhausted to move, I would wash her feet to help her relax. Even when she went wild drinking with him and a colleague sent me provoking photos, I still welcomed her home with warm milk and toast. How could I be so blind, she thought. I have such a happy family. I cannot let my husband find out. Mom is right. I must keep my distance. She wept, knowing that even without physical intimacy, her emotional affair was still a betrayal to me. You cannot lie to yourself. But her guilt did not last long. A text from Liu Xingchen popped up tomorrow at 11 a.m. romantic restaurant, be there. Her phone suddenly felt like a heavy brick in her hand. Sorry, Director Liu, I have design drafts to finish tomorrow, so I cannot make it. If she truly wanted to end things, she should have blocked him, immediately deleted his number, and requested a transfer or quit. That would show real remorse. But deep down, she was still hesitant. Minutes later, he texted again. My dear, let's discuss the follow-up design for the Heart of Eternity. Looking at the screen, she wavered. Her old feelings threatened to overpower her rationality once again. She replied, Director Liu, let's discuss work matters at the office. There is no need for a restaurant. His reply was instant. Director Liu, seriously, my dear. Aren't we soulmates? You hurt me by calling me that. Did your useless husband find out? My wife replied, do not speak of my husband that way. I have a family. Perhaps my past actions misled you. I want us to keep a strictly professional relationship from now on. My wife's hands trembled in agony. He replied, I am returning to England soon. I only want to see you one last time. Since you want to end this, let's make one last beautiful memory. Ultimately, she agreed, throwing her promise to her mother and her guilt out the window. Just one last time, then, I will return to my family, she whispered to herself. Tears streamed down her face, mourning her forbidden romance. Meanwhile, inside a luxury villa, Liu Xingchen put down his phone and said nervously, she agreed. When do I get my money? If I had been there, I would have recognized the man standing before him. Senator Ju's bodyguard. The guard said coldly, make her get a divorce and take her out of Linhai and you will be rich. Liu Xingchen smirked. She is an idiot. She does whatever I say. Don't worry, the guard scoffed. Just stick to the plan. And remember, her father Xiao Changhe is dangerous. Do not slip up. Liu Xingchen smiled greedily. Understood. I will follow your boss's orders to the letter. She is a complete fool. I could convince her to work at a hostess bar if I wanted. The guard snapped, watch your limits. Keep her isolated, but do not sleep with her. Scum like you does not deserve her. He gripped Liu Xingchen's neck, squeezing hard. His hand felt like a hydraulic press, choking the breath out of him until his face turned white. After letting him squirm, the guard threw him aside and walked away. Liu Xingchen slammed his fist against the floor in fury. He might have fought back before, but losing his private hard drive ruined him. If those scandalous videos leaked, he was dead. Time was rapidly running out. I had no idea about their conspiracy yet, but my spyware had kept me fully informed of their betrayals. My wife simply could not help herself. Masking my anger, I walked home carrying a fresh fish I bought. My mother-in-law was cleaning and hurried to greet me. Mom, I said warmly. Even though she was her mother, I could never hate her. I knew from my cameras how hard she had fought to protect my marriage. Oh, good boy, give it to me. Let Mom cook you a nice meal. You must be exhausted. Her kindness warmed my heart, making her feel like my own mother. I finally understood why I had held on to this marriage. With such a wonderful mother-in-law and a sweet daughter, I was willing to endure the neglect. My heart wavered about my revenge plan. What would happen when this kind woman discovered her daughter's disgusting betrayal? How heartbreaking that must be. Still, I pretended to be unbothered, saying, "Mom, let me do it. Hongli loves carp, and you need to look after him later. He hates the fishy smell." Hearing my double-meaning words, her face filled with pain as she reached out to... She gently touched my hair and said, "Child, I know you've been wronged. She's foolish. Please don't hold it against her." Her eyes welled with tears. What an amazing son-in-law. How deeply must I love her daughter to sacrifice like this. What was her daughter even doing? Rage surged inside her. She threw open the bedroom door and yelled, "Xiao Hongli, are you deaf or dead? Didn't you hear your husband come home? As his wife, you can't even greet him. Are you an empress? Does the world revolve around you? Do I need to bow down and serve you dinner?" Those words were incredibly harsh, which honestly felt satisfying to hear. I knew half of it was just for my benefit, though what mother doesn't love? Her own daughter, Xiao Hongli, walked out expressionless. Her head was so full of Liu Xingchen that she missed her mother's intentions, only feeling annoyed. "Mom, you're my mother, but stay out of our marriage. And Chen Yiping, what's your problem? Does cooking a fish make you a victim? Do it if you want, but who are you trying to guilt trip?" She glared at me coldly, her words biting like a winter wind. I took a deep breath, holding back my temper and forcing myself not to slap her. An unfaithful woman really is heartless. But thinking of the revenge I had planned for tomorrow, I calmed down. Putting on my usual submissive act, I smiled. "Honey, please don't be mad. You're still sick. You need to rest." I had always been her ultimate simp, so this submissive act fit perfectly. After snapping, she actually felt a twinge of regret deep down. She had just decided to focus back on our family, but running into Liu Xingchen messed everything up. Right then, my mother-in-law stared at her, glaring at my wife, as if she was seeing her own daughter for the first time. Uncomfortable, under that heavy gaze, Hongli tucked her hair back. "Mom, I don't feel well. I have a terrible headache, so I'll go rest." Mother-in-law said nothing, only sighing deeply with a deeply worried look. After hesitating, she decided to talk to her daughter and followed her inside. Halfway through my cooking, my sister-in-law Xiao Jingyan returned with my daughter, Chengqian. "Daddy, I missed you so much." A little girl in a white dress threw herself into my arms. "Were you a good girl today, sweetie?" "My hands are dirty. Let's play in a bit, okay?" My daughter nodded obediently. Sister-in-law Jingyan asked Yipeng, "Why aren't you at the office today?" I looked up at her. Even though we had met recently, she still stunned me. Jingyan was wonderfully shapely with an absolutely gorgeous figure, absolutely gorgeous. But what drew me most was her aura of a devoted wife and mother. I nodded. "Yeah, I was worried about Hongli's illness, so I stayed home." "Sister, I'll have to trouble you these next few days." Suppressing my stray thoughts, I saw her eyes dim as she replied, "We're family, you are still so polite." As she put on her slippers to enter, she accidentally banged her leg on the shoe cabinet. She lost her balance and fell backward. Reacting instantly, I lunged forward and caught her in my arms. "Sister, are you okay?" Her eyes welled with pain. "It hurts, let me see," I said. Without giving her a chance to refuse, I scooped her up in a princess carry and laid her on the sofa. Taken completely by surprise, she gasped, surrounded by my masculine scent. By the time she was on the couch, she finally realized what had just happened. Her lovely face flushed, bright red, and she was too embarrassed to speak. I gently pulled off her sock. There was no sweat, only a faint orchid scent. Her delicate toes were beautiful, but the area near her instep was slightly swollen and red. I massaged it gently and said, "It doesn't seem broken. You should be fine after some rest. Let me apply some ointment." "No, don't," Jingyan said, pulling her foot back. She had lived apart from her husband for years and hadn't been touched by any man, especially on her sensitive feet, which even her husband had never touched. Those few gentle squeezes had nearly sent her soul flying. Her heart was still tingling, and her face burned with a rapid rush of heat. "All right, then, rest up," I said, not pushing it. Since I hadn't solved my own problems yet, I naturally had no energy to flirt with this lonely housewife. Jingyan bit her lip, feeling a sudden, inexplicable sense of disappointment, a flicker of sadness in her eyes. Later, when dinner was ready and she tried to stand, a sharp pain shot through her foot, causing her to fall again. Everyone rushed over. I banged it on the cabinet. "Earlier, it hurt so bad." Mother-in-law chided gently. "You're a grown woman? How could you be so careless? Mom, stop it. It's so embarrassing." Jingyan protested, struggling to stand. I sighed, unable to just watch. I walked over and slipped one arm behind her back and slid my other hand under her legs, easily carrying her to the dining table. In the process, my hands inevitably brushed against her full, shapely hips. This sent her mind into a daze, her beautiful eyes misting over her flushed face, glowing like peach blossoms. Her heart beat wildly. She cursed quietly to herself. This bad boy, how can he be so bold? Her body felt completely weak, and she could barely sit steady on her chair. Mother-in-law saw everything clearly, her eyes darting back and forth between us, though she said nothing. I calmly brought out the ointment and asked, Mom, should I do it, or will you? I'll do it, she said, taking the tube and applying it to Jingyan. Meanwhile, Hongli felt an inexplicable pang of jealousy, as if a toy that belonged to her had been taken away. Hongli mechanically picked at her food, which tasted like ash. She felt so strange. In the past, she wouldn't have cared at all if I carried her sister, but today she felt incredibly bothered. Unable to suppress her unexplained anger, she grumbled, This food is so salty today. Qianqian don't eat too much. I quickly stood up and apologized. I'm sorry, I'll cook something else. I did this deliberately to show my mother-in-law and sister-in-law isolating my wife. Sure enough, my mother-in-law snapped, Yiping, sit down and eat. You spoil her way too much. My wife's rebellious streak flared up. Slamming her bowl on the table, she snapped, Fine, I won't eat. She stormed into her bedroom and slammed the door shut. Qianqian looked frightened and on the verge of tears, about to cry. I patted her head gently. Don't be scared, sweetie. Mommy is just feeling sick. Once she's better, we'll go to the amusement park. Okay, she smiled. Okay, in her world, her mother barely mattered. I was carrying far too many burdens that weren't mine to bear. My mother-in-law turned away and wiped her tears, too ashamed to say anything else. Jingyan sat there uncomfortably, sensing her sister's anger was directed at her. She felt wronged. It wasn't her fault, so why get the attitude? Suddenly I asked Mom, Are you and Dad free tomorrow? She asked in confusion. Nothing planned. Why, I said, I have something to discuss with both of you tomorrow. I hope you can make some time. Sister, I'll have to trouble you to watch Qianqian again. They exchanged uneasy glances, then looked at me. They couldn't read anything from my expression. Sensing something, my mother-in-law nodded with a heavy heart. All right, your father and I will wait for your call. Dinner ended at 5:30. My parents were delayed at the airport. I quickly washed up and left under the pretext of getting office files. After I left, they both guessed that tomorrow's talk was about Hongli. When I finally got home after midnight, as soon as I stepped into my room, a soft, warm body smelling of bath gel pressed against my back. The warm touch made my mind wander. Then a pair of pale arms wrapped around my waist. Hongli whispered shyly, Hubby, let's go to bed. I missed you so much. The cool touch of her sexy silk nightgown nearly shattered my willpower. If I could, I would have spun her around, ripped that nightgown off, and taught this unfaithful woman a harsh lesson. But in the next second, my reason pulled me back. Even if Liu Xingqian hadn't touched her, who knew if she had been with other men? Unfaithful women are untrustworthy. The prettier they are, the better they are at disguised lies. I took a deep breath and grabbed her arm to push her away, but as my fingers touched her wrist, her pulse made me freeze. A pregnancy pulse, about 40 days. My mind exploded. Pure, uncontrollable rage surged in my chest as I turned around and said slowly, word by word, We haven't been intimate for 4 months, have we? My eyes were pitch black and freezing. Hongli had never seen me look at her like this, like an animal waiting for slaughter. The air around us solidified. Anyone who had been in the military or high-risk missions would instantly recognize this as pure bloodlust. Hongli forced a strained smile. She thought I was just mocking her previous cold attitude. Out of guilt, she instinctively began to apologize. Hubby, you're hurting me. It was my fault. I'm sorry I neglected you and Qianqian. I said coldly, Get out. We'll talk tomorrow. I won't touch you because I refuse to raise another man's kid. I'm not some gullible fool. My words hit her like a biting winter wind, making her tremble. Filled with grievance and rage, she snapped, Chen Yiping, I'm your wife. My body is clean. I swear I've never betrayed you. I have lines I won't cross. I pointed to the door. Get out. I won't repeat myself. Your vows are worthless. Hongli felt as if she had been violently slapped. A massive wave of shame pushed her to step back slowly. Chen Yiping, you've changed. You're not the man I knew. I've already apologized. What more do you want? Do you want me to beg on my knees? Tears streamed down her face. She had been spoiled for too long. She didn't even know how to apologize. To be fair, the original Chen Yiping shared some blame. His constant subservience and lack of communication had trained his pampered wife to ignore his sacrifices and trample on his dignity. Chen Yiping is dead, I said coldly. Ignoring her completely, I pushed her out of the study. Bubbling with anger, I went straight to the bathroom and turned on the shower, letting the ice-cold water pour over me. Soon my racing heart calmed and logic returned. Suddenly, a buried memory belonging to Chen Yiping resurfaced. It was a deeply humiliating, intimate encounter for Chen Yipeng, but matching it with Hong Li's pregnancy timeline, the dates actually fit. That meant the child in her womb could actually be mine. Over a month ago, she had claimed there was a company design department dinner I had noticed her change in attitude long ago. I hadn't wanted to be paranoid, but that day, acting on a strange whim, I followed her department out and trailed her taxi. The dinner took place at an upscale restaurant where I waited anxiously outside for hours. Finally, she stumbled out drunk, supported by her best friend Wei Bingbing. But just as she was getting into a taxi, my heart shattered. Liu Xingchen was holding her hand and he leaned his face in, pressing his cheek intimately against hers. Liu Xingchen was clearly taking advantage of her, yet my wife welcomed it, even waving with a silly smile. Her brain was completely turned to mush. Her supposedly best friend Wei Bingbing just stood by, clapping and watching the show. What a great friend. I had always taken good care of Wei Bingbing, even sharing gifts with her, yet she loved to fan the flames. I kept following my wife home. Wei Bingbing took her in a taxi, dropped her off at the entrance, and left. When I got home, I found her clothes scattered everywhere, a puddle of vomit in the living room, and my wife fast asleep in bed. It was the first time I had ever seen her drunk. She used to never touch alcohol and avoided all parties. Things only started changing after Liu Xingchen showed up. Chen Yipeng cleaned everything up, even checking her underwear. Finding no suspicious marks, he brought over a basin of water to wipe his wife's face. But what he absolutely could not accept was that his beloved wife, while fast asleep, muttered Liu Xingchen's name. No man could ever tolerate that. Consumed by lingering resentment, Chen Yipeng slept with his wife as a form of pure retaliation. Once it was over, a wave of guilt hit him, so he quickly used a towel to clean her up and put on fresh underwear, erasing every single trace. Throughout the process, she only reacted physically, her consciousness completely knocked out by the alcohol. Having finished reviewing this memory, I am 80% sure the baby in Xiao Hongli's belly is actually Chen Yipeng's. But a child conceived during an emotional affair simply cannot be kept. If this baby is born, every single birthday will just remind him of his wife's betrayal. That disgust and hatred would inevitably transfer to the child. To spare them from that pain, this has to end. All this guilt belongs to the cheater. Besides, there is still a chance it is a bastard child from Xiao Hongli's affair. If so, it absolutely cannot be born. We will have our answer tomorrow. Half an hour later, I stepped out of the shower. Maybe it was a side effect of transmigrating, but this body's physical condition and body fat are changing before my eyes. In less than 3 days, the flab on my belly has vanished, replaced by a solid six-pack. The bedroom door was wide open, and Xiao Hongli was curled up on the bed, her eyes red from crying. Hearing me walk into the living room, she jumped out of bed for some reason and intercepted me. But when she saw I was shirtless, she froze. My muscles were highly defined, my lines clean and sharp like a walking piece of art. When did you start working out? How come I didn't know? She unconsciously swallowed hard. With her background in art, she knew exactly how difficult it was for an average person to sculpt a physique like this. The old Chen Yipeng never exercised and was getting soft. But my arrival seemed to rejuvenate this body, making it better than ever. Normally, as my wife, she should have been the first to notice, but we hadn't been close in a long time, let alone intimate. So instead of suspecting anything supernatural, she simply assumed she had just missed it. She always prided herself on being above superficial things, believing that spiritual connection was everything in a partner or a friend. Yet standing before my unbelievably sculpted body, she suddenly grew flustered, her face flushing, her heart racing, and her eyes unconsciously drifting down to her feet. Xiao Hongli, didn't you want to talk? Say it, why are you scared of your own husband? She silently pumped herself up and her right hand reached out to touch my abs. A shiver ran through me and I quickly stepped back. My retreat hurt her, but she had just been doing some soul searching. She realized that if she truly didn't love her husband anymore, she could just ask for a divorce. But she didn't want that yet. She refused to admit she still loved him. This emotional conflict left her completely lost. Ever since she got back from the bar that night, her mind had been a mess. She felt like her husband was a different person. The home that once felt so safe now seemed normal on the surface, but suffocating underneath. I'm sorry, she whispered. That was her third apology tonight. When no one treated her like a princess, she was nothing. I could tell that even now she didn't understand the real issue. She was just trying to use her body to ease the crushing guilt of her emotional affair. No need to apologize. Tomorrow or the day after we can talk. You just got over being sick, so go get some rest. I forced myself to sound calm, hiding any trace of my anger. But she still felt the cold distance. Pursing her red lips, her eyes welled up as she spoke. Okay, honey, I really love you. You have to believe me. Hearing her say love made me sick to my stomach. If I hadn't heard her phone recordings with Liu Xingchen, I wouldn't believe she had the nerve to say that. Sure, I believe you, I lied, growing more annoyed. I brushed her off. By the way, the teacher asked for a family photo this morning. Did Mom mention it? If you're free, send it to me. I remember one of us with Chenqian at the museum. That would be perfect. Hearing this, her body gave an involuntary shudder, her face turning pale. A wave of intense shame washed over her, and she avoided my gaze entirely. My phone, it broke, and I had to format it. I'm sorry, honey. I'll take it to the shop tomorrow, she stammered. She didn't even have time to spin a believable lie. Since I already knew the truth, I didn't bother calling her out. Don't worry about it, I said flatly. I'll check the computer for a backup. Go to bed. Flooded with guilt and terrified of her camera roll, she just watched me walk away, unable to utter a word. She moved like a mannequin back to the bedroom and threw herself onto the bed. Her once warm home felt dead, her tears soaking her pillow. Tomorrow is the absolute last time I didn't betray my family. I love my husband. I love my kid, each whispered word serving as a form of desperate self-hypnosis until she drifted off. Her strange behavior tonight was perhaps a subtle warning from above. Meanwhile, Xiao Jingyan had put Changqian to bed after washing her up, leaving herself alone on the sofa, mindlessly watching TV. The villa's living room was incredibly luxurious, yet it felt cold and empty. Ugh, what does that man want from me? Annoyed, she tossed the remote aside and curled up on the couch, her pale, creamy skin hidden beneath conservative white cotton pajamas. Suddenly her delicate body stiffened and she let out a long, weary sigh, mourning her own misfortune. Who could ever understand her profound loneliness? Just then the front door clicked open and Sima Zhang stumbled in, reeking of alcohol. You're back. Have you eaten? I'll make you some hot tea, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Still trapped in her earlier guilt, she felt strangely anxious facing him. I ate. Go to bed, he muttered. He tossed his briefcase aside, staring at the gentle, stunning woman in front of him to feed his own ego. He might not be king at the office, but here in front of the Xiao family's eldest daughter, his word was absolute. Too bad she wasn't Xiao Shuang Chenghe's biological daughter. He highly envied that loser Chen Yipeng, but looking at Xiao Jingyan only fueled his anger. Her fair skin and deep cleavage from this angle could give any man a nosebleed, but for Sima Zhang it was pure torture. A gorgeous wife who was completely off limits was nothing but a cruel joke. Once she set out his slippers, Sima Zhang walked right past her and headed straight for the shower, leaving her cold. She sighed, wondering how long she could endure this. Sadly, she had no say over her own destiny. Later that night, she woke up in a daze. After checking on Chengqian, she saw it was only 1 a.m. She was about to close her eyes when she noticed a light coming from under the door. Someone was still up in the living room. Slipping on her robe, she cracked the bedroom door open to peer outside. Surprisingly, Sima Zhang was sitting alone on the sofa talking on his phone. Knowing how busy he always was, she was about to step out and tell him to get some rest when she suddenly heard him mention a name, Zhu Guide. We are partners, not boss and employee. Your obsession with Xiao Hongli is your business, but I have done my part. All I care about is when we get our hands on Xiao Changhei's money. My embezzlement of company funds is about to come to light, so your plan better succeed. Chen Yiping is such a pathetic coward. His wife cheated, and he hasn't even retaliated against Liu Xingchen after months. Let's add fuel to the fire. If needed, I will make the move myself and frame Chen Yiping. Once Xiao Changhei spits out the cash, whatever you do to him is none of my business. Lowering his voice, he glanced toward the bedroom door. The usual warmth on his face was replaced by a dark, bloodshot expression dripping with pure malice and greed. She clamped her hands over her mouth, her eyes wide with terror, her body paralyzed. A wave of raw panic almost made her collapse. She never imagined her husband could be such a monster. Sure, he lacked physical capability, but he had always been so gentle to her and caring, which was why she never held a grudge, only lamenting her bad luck. But this devilish side of Sima Zhang completely shattered her reality. As a sheltered housewife, she had no idea what to do next. Suddenly, Sima Zhang stood up and walked straight toward her bedroom. Pushing the door open, he quietly stared at the two of them on the bed, before finally leaving. Hiding beneath her blanket, she let out a breath, her mind spinning out of control. If he was truly the mastermind targeting her sister's family, what should she do? What would he do to her? She used every ounce of her wits and decided to stay quiet for now. Confronting him would only put Qian in danger, and she had to protect her daughter at all costs. Once Sima Zhang finally left, she collapsed onto the floor. Driven by sheer terror, she dressed quickly, took Qian, and limped out to hail a cab. Meanwhile, Xiao Hongli had also left for work, her mind torn between her design draft and her 11 o'clock date, leaving her completely frazzled. After washing up, I was planning to pick up my parents and then my in-laws, but I never expected Jingyan to show up at my place first with Xiangqian. Drenched in sweat from panic, she clung to me the moment she saw me like a lifeline. She threw her arms around me. Dressed in a breezy summer gown, her stunning curves pressed tight against my chest, sending a jolt straight through me. "Calm down, take a breath." What happened? I forced myself to keep my eyes up, resisting the urge to look down, speaking to her in my gentlest voice. To be honest, I really liked her. If she weren't married, I probably would have tried to be with her. "It's Sima Zhang," she cried out, her beautiful face twisted in sheer agony. "You and Hongli are both in danger." Her sprained ankle from yesterday was badly aggravated from her frantic escape, swollen to the size of an apple. Hearing Sima Zhang's name, I had a pretty good idea of what was happening. Since she came straight to warn me, she was clearly a loyal, caring woman, miles better than Xiao Hongli. "Take it easy," I said gently. "Let me take care of that ankle first, or you won't be walking on it today." I didn't care about Sima Zhang, but I genuinely felt bad for her. I sent Xiangqian for medicine and helped her onto the couch. She winced, trying to keep her shapely legs pressed together as she adjusted her posture. Xiangqian obediently brought over the ointment and went to do her homework. I slowly slipped off her sock, my touch as gentle as if I were handling a fragile piece of glass. She bit her lower lip, trembling slightly from nerves. She was timid by nature. Even when I massaged the swollen, tender spot on her ankle, she stayed quiet as a lamb, keeping her eyes downcast. I rubbed my palm gently over her delicate skin, applying the soothing ointment. As the medicine absorbed, a cool sensation spread through her ankle, followed by a comforting heat. "Is it done?" she asked softly. "You twisted it again. If we don't treat it now, it'll get worse. Just hang in there. Think of me as your doctor." "What kind of doctor are you?" Shyness flushed Xiao Jingyan's porcelain skin a beautiful rose red. She fought hard to control her racing heart, knowing she might lose her composure if we stayed like this any longer. "All right, all done," I said. "You can stand up now." I finished massaging the medicine in and packed up the faint, lingering scent of orchids from her skin mixing with the ointment on my hands. "Thank you." Xiao Jingyan panted heavily, looking embarrassed yet strangely lost. Once her embarrassment faded, she got down to business. Hearing about Sima Zhang made everything click. It didn't explain everything, but our enemy was clear. Sima Zhang embezzled premium funds he couldn't repay, so he wanted the company to go bankrupt. To cover his losses, he framed me for attacking Liu Xingchen. He knew my father-in-law would intervene either to save the family name or protect his daughter. The real target here was the mysterious money my father-in-law was rumored to hold. That goal was theirs all along, not me or my wife. But wait, Jingyan said Zhu Guide was working with Sima Zhang and specifically mentioned Hongli. Are two factions plotting at once? Why make it so complicated when Zhu could just kidnap her? Why go through the trouble of staging an affair to ruin her? This headache of a situation has too many messy clues overcomplicating things. Whatever, it has nothing to do with a small fry like Chen Yipeng anyway. I'll sit back and watch the fight. Just don't cross me or I'll unleash absolute hell on you, I thought. Next, I took Jingyan and Shixi to pick up Yipeng's parents, then my in-laws. The parents' meeting was cold and tense, especially my father-in-law, who looked ready to explode. My cousin-in-law, Jingse, clung to my arm shamelessly and smiled. "Brother-in-law, is this a family reunion today?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yes, we have business. Why are you tagging along?" Jingzi whispered I heard my aunt and uncle fighting. He wanted to call you and my sister over, but she stopped him. "Are you about to show your cards, brother-in-law?" Out of the three sisters, she was easily the sharpest. Innocent outside, incredibly calculating inside. She had a sharp mind for reading situations. "Curiosity will only get you hurt. Keep your head down lately," I warned her. With her intelligence, she'd catch my drift. Her face turned serious as she whispered, "They are coming for our family." Driving toward the romantic restaurant, the silence in the car was deafening. Finally, I spoke up. "Let's go to the romantic restaurant. I booked a room and it's close to Hong Li's office." My father-in-law grunted. "You call the shots. It's time we talk." The atmosphere remained painfully tense. Soon we parked and got out. It was almost 11 a.m. My phone's tracker showed the two cheaters had already arrived, so I dialed her number through Bluetooth. "Hey, Hong Li, where are you?" I asked. I put the call on speaker so everyone could hear. Hong Li tried to sound casual. "I'm at the office." "Why?" I replied smoothly. "Are you free?" "My parents are in town, and we're all here with your parents. Let's get lunch." My invitation was flawless. Even her parents couldn't find fault. "Let's do dinner instead." She lied quickly. "I really can't leave the office right now. I have a design to finish." Perfect. Everyone heard her lies loud and clear. This woman had plenty of time for her lover, but none for her child or parents. Jinx's eyes flashed with mischief as she lagged behind. Jingyan held Shixi so lost in thought she didn't realize she was pressing right against me. It was likely her subconscious search for security. My mother-in-law noticed and frowned, but kept quiet. Never mind, we'll talk tonight. Let's welcome our in-laws first, my father-in-law barked, waving us inside as the clock struck 11 a.m. The sprawling restaurant was nearly empty. In the center, a pianist played a soft, romantic melody that echoed through the hall. This place was built for romance, a stage for countless love stories and heartbreaks. And right there sat my wife. She looked stunning in a fitted, dark gray V-neck dress that hugged her curves. With her crimson lips and perfect eyeliner, she radiated pure, irresistible charm. Darling, you look absolutely gorgeous today. Liu Xingchen said, his eyes practically burning with lust. He handed her a bouquet of red roses. The painkillers keeping my poison at bay had him feeling manic and eager. Red roses representing love. Hong Li bit her lip, took the flowers, and placed them on the table with a heavy heart. Her mind was in absolute turmoil. We should just be ordinary friends from now on, she whispered. This isn't right. Liu Xingchen panicked. He was so close to having her. He couldn't let his prize slip away now. I have a family, and I don't want my husband to misunderstand, she said, each word heavy. I lost my mind and forgot I'm a mother. She seemed to be convincing herself as much as him, tears pooling in her eyes. Her tears only made her look more beautiful and vulnerable. Sensing her retreat, the master manipulator leaned closer, staring into her eyes with intense warmth. But you said we are soulmates, he whispered softly. Our love transcends normal rules. You are unique, don't you see? We do this for art, for pure creation. Once again, her fragile resolve crumbled under his fake artistic appeal. The bastard knew exactly how to twist his obsession with her into something noble. Foolish women always fall for this trap. Torn between guilt and passion, she stared at this world-famous artist. He grabbed her hand eagerly. My love, I know you crave art. Run away with me. Let's go to Europe together. It is a paradise for creators. I love you more than life itself. I'll introduce you to my family and we'll marry. We will be together forever. His dramatic confession echoed loudly throughout the quiet romantic restaurant. Naturally, every eye in the room turned toward them. The staff used to such cheesy scenes paused to clap and offer polite blessings. She is gorgeous. He is one lucky bastard, other patrons murmured in approval. My family followed the noise and looked over too. Hong Li was too stunned to pull her hand back. Her lover's loud, passionate confession had instantly ripped away the fragile mask of decency she had tried so hard to wear. Standing there with my family, we stared at her table. Everyone recognized them immediately. The vibrant red roses looked like fresh blood sprayed from a broken heart. In an instant, my entire family froze in absolute shock. My father-in-law shook with rage, his face flushed. As his blood pressure spiked dangerously, he could barely stand. My mother-in-law wished the earth would swallow her, desperately holding on to my mother, to keep them both from collapsing. Jingxi, who had anticipated this all along, smirked faintly and covered my daughter Xixi's eyes to shield her from the ugliness. Jingyan gasped, staring at her sister in shock, though she felt a strange, forbidden flash of hope. I knew my moment had arrived. This trashy soap opera was playing out perfectly. Don't blame me for watching her get seduced and bringing her family to witness it. A faithful wife doesn't get caught in a lover's arms. Why lie on the phone if she had nothing to hide? Showing them photos would never match seeing her betray us live. Right then she sniffled, completely, swayed by his lies, her eyes welling up with tears. As he reached out to wipe her tears, I lunged like a starved predator. You son of a bitch, stay away from my wife. My roar shattered the romance. Before he could react, my fist smashed hard into his face. I landed several heavy blows, instantly shattering his nose. Blood sprayed everywhere. He curled up like a whimpering stray dog, clutching his face in agonizing pain. He could only cover his head as I unleashed my rage. He howled in pain while I sneered inwardly. It looked brutal, but my blows were highly calculated. I targeted nerve clusters to maximize his pain without leaving permanent damage. Even if he went to the hospital later, it wouldn't even qualify as a minor injury. At worst, the police would give me 5 days of detention. Hong Li stood frozen, her eyes glued to us. She hadn't even noticed her family walking up. Stop, you'll kill him, she screamed. Seeing my fury, she grabbed my arm to pull me back. She couldn't budge me, but I saw my opening. I threw myself backward, deliberately aiming my head. As a trained professional, I controlled the impact perfectly. My control over my body and the environment guaranteed absolute safety. My head clipped the heavy table leg and blood instantly sprayed everywhere. It looked incredibly gory, but it was actually just a shallow scalp wound. But to my family, it looked like Hong Li had violently shoved her own husband to protect her lover, leaving me gravely injured. My mother screamed in absolute terror and threw herself over my bloody body. She tried to pull me up desperately, pressing her sleeves against my bleeding head. Hong Li froze, her heart hammering as she looked at my sobbing mother. I didn't mean to, she stammered. It wasn't me. I just wanted to. Before she could finish her lie, her father charged like a rabid lion. He raised his hand and slapped her across the face with all his might. The impact made a sickening crack, sending her crashing to the floor. Her ears rang and her vision blurred. A bright red handprint bloomed on her pale cheek as a trickle of blood seeped from her ear. Just then, Liu Xingqian stumbled up and saw her father knock her down. He assumed the old man was just some hired thug I brought to catch them. Eager to look heroic, he charged forward. "Hands off my woman, you old bastard," he yelled, throwing a punch straight into my father-in-law's chest. The old man couldn't block it. The heavy blow nearly knocked the wind out of him, sending him stumbling back, until my mother-in-law caught him. My mother wailed, pointing at Liu with tear-filled eyes. "If my son dies, you're dead. I will end you," my mother screamed. Trembling, Liu Xingqian finally noticed me lying in a pool of blood. Panicking that he had committed murder, he pointed at my wife. She pushed him. "This has nothing to do with me." He yelled, "He's the one who seduced me first. He added me first. Fake Shui, go find him if you want." Then he scrambled out of the restaurant. Xiao Jingsei quickly led Qian away, while Xiao Jingyan helped her mother support my father-in-law, Xiao Changhe desperately giving him his heart and blood pressure medication. My wife Xiao Hongli made no defense. Her eyes were completely hollow, as if she'd lost consciousness. In truth, her heart must have frozen solid. If Liu Xingqian had shown any spine, she might have found a shred of comfort. But reality had just slapped her hard across the face. She probably regretted her terrible judgment, wondering how she'd been so blinded. Just yesterday, she'd promised her mother never to contact Liu Xingqian again. Why did she even show up? She only wanted closure to return to our family, but fate wouldn't give her that chance. Xiao Hongli raised her head blankly, only to meet her mother's gaze filled with disappointment and hatred, as if looking at an enemy. Dazed and struggling to process, she finally remembered her father had been beaten by Liu Xingqian. "Dad, are you okay?" she cried, scrambling up to help him. But her mother Wu Gei shoved her away. Pale and completely drained of strength, my father-in-law gasped weakly, "Tell her to get out. I don't have a daughter like her." At that moment, hit by absolute despair, Xiao Hongli looked back at me, still lying in a pool of blood. Intense guilt and pain washed over her. "Honey, are you okay? Please say something. Forgive me. I'm so sorry." She dropped to her knees, reaching out to hold me, but my mother's murderous glare froze her in her tracks. "My son is not your husband. Don't touch him," my mother snapped, cradling my head with eyes full of hatred. To her, my wife was now her worst enemy. Xiao Hongli covered her face, sobbing and apologizing desperately, but we both knew it was far too late. Who would ever believe her now? That she was actually innocent, that she hadn't cheated, and her body was still clean. Xiao Hongli finally tasted the bitter trap of defenselessness. As her mind reeled, onlookers pulled out their phones to record. They whispered about a wife letting her lover beat her husband and then her own father. The wild rumors spread instantly as the videos hit the internet, sparking a massive online backlash. Nobody could have guessed that this very scandal would trigger a massive storm across all of Linhai. Seeing the injuries, the restaurant staff quickly called for an ambulance. The paramedics arrived, wheeling my father-in-law and me out to the ambulance. Xiao Hongli trailed behind her hand, clutching the edge of my pants, as if desperate for some comfort. Too consumed with worry over my injuries, my mother didn't even have the energy to snap at her. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen," she sobbed, her eyes swollen red. The slap mark on her left cheek had bruised into a horrific swollen purple. Seeing the growing crowd and perhaps thinking of her granddaughter, my mother's heart softened slightly. A little child needed her mother after all. We couldn't just drive her to the edge, but before my mother could speak, a voice cut in, "Sister, where are you going?" I squinted through my pain and saw a wealthy-looking woman standing next to an old lady with bright red lipstick. It was Fei Shui, the woman I'd seen at the office, Liu Xingqian's bar owner sister. Seeing them, Xiao Hongli panicked. She remembered him mentioning he'd introduce his family today. But the misunderstandings were already piling up, and just as my mother was starting to calm down, any further confusion would seal her doom. Ignoring the chaos, Fei Shui deliberately led the old woman over and announced loudly, "Mom, look, this is Qingqian's girlfriend, Xiao Hongli. Take a good look at your future daughter-in-law." My parents, along with my in-laws who were boarding the ambulance, all turned to look. Xiao Hongli's face flushed crimson as she screamed, "You have the wrong person. I'm not her." Get lost. Fei Shui just slapped her forehead, pretending to have a sudden realization. "Oh, right, my bad." She smirked. "Xingqian did say you're getting divorced soon. Almost forgot. Sorry, Mom, let's go." The old woman scanned my wife with cloudy eyes and muttered, Wide hips, good for babies. I like her. Just like that, they effortlessly dropped a bomb and walked away, leaving my wife standing there in absolute crushing despair.